Hey everyone, Shabby Gamer here, and welcome back to another episode of Shabby Talk. Now, something I want to try and do a bit more of course, we did our WrestleMania and NXT TakeOver episodes, but now we're going to start to get into a few different things, and we're going to stay topical. In this episode, we're going to be talking about the upcoming Superstar Shakeup. Now, it was announced last week by Vince McMahon on Raw that we're going to have this shakeup to try and freshen up the rosters, and it's also been announced this week that it's going to take place over both Raw and SmackDown. Now, I've got a few ideas that I've written down of people that could change. I'm not going to say these are going to happen for definite, but it's definitely a few that I think would either advantage from moving or WWE themselves would advantage from these people moving. So, like I said, these are just my opinions. If you guys have any comments on what I put down, then please, of course, put them down in the comment section below and we can have a little chat about it all. So the first person I thought might change, now I'm not happy about this one, but it is probably one of the most heavily rumoured ones out there at the moment, is AJ Styles moving from SmackDown to Raw. Now, I don't want this to happen. I think AJ Styles staying on the same brand as Nakamura is a massive thing. But I don't know, I can see this happening. Although AJ, again, last week said that he wants to stay on SmackDown Live. And ultimately, it is Shane McMahon's choice to trade him. I don't think there's a lottery or anything like that. So, I don't know, it doesn't make sense to me that he would move. But that's the heaviest rumoured one. From what I've heard rumour-wise, Vince believes that AJ Styles is the reason why SmackDown is getting such high ratings at the moment. So he believes that moving AJ Styles to Raw will in turn boost the ratings on Raw. And that might work, but it's all down to how he's used as well. I would assume that if he does move, again, I don't know if this makes sense or not, but I would assume he would stay as a heel and potentially realign with the club, which probably was a good time for him there because he really was able to put himself across as a heel a bit more with the help of the club in certain matches as well. Since he's been on SmackDown, he's sort of been a tweener as such, but then we saw last week on SmackDown when he offered Shane McMahon the handshake, he sort of hinted towards a potential face turn. So, yes, it's interesting. It's not one that I want to see happen, but it's one that I think there's a good chance of happening. Now, the second one is going to be one from Raw to SmackDown, and this one, in my opinion, would be the trade for AJ Styles, and that would be Finn Balor. Now, Finn, of course, moved to Raw in the original draft and got injured very soon after. And I don't know, I feel like moving to SmackDown for him would be a fresh start, but it also would mean that he would not be on the same brand as Gallows and Anderson, because I don't think that's going to help him. I think while he's on the same brand as Gallows and Anderson, if they're trying to keep Finn Balor as a face, having him on the same brand as Gallows and Anderson could always have that little bit of doubt in people's minds, that little bit of that urgency in people's mind that they want to see Bullet Club reform. So if Balor was on a separate brand to those two, I think it would sort of take that away and we can concentrate more on Finn Balor as the face. Say this for me would be the swap for AJ Styles, because it looks like over on SmackDown with John Cena leaving to do a film, and he's going to be out for quite a few months. If they were to lose someone big like AJ Styles, they would need another big name to replace him. Of course, they have brought in Shinsuke Nakamura, but they do need another big name, and I think Finn Balor could definitely be that person. Well, the next one I thought about would be Baron Corbin moving from SmackDown Live to Raw. Corbin's had a fantastic year since making his debut last year in the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal and winning that as well. And he's had a fantastic year. He's gone from strength to strength. He's been in World Championship matches, of course, the Elimination Chamber. He managed to get himself on WrestleMania as well in an Intercontinental Championship match. And I was very surprised, I'm pretty sure you guys were as well, that Baron Corbin did not win the Intercontinental Championship. And that got me thinking, maybe he didn't win that championship because they want to move him across to Raw. Of course, if he was the champion, then he wouldn't have been available for the shakeup. So that's the only logical reason I can think why he didn't win the IC belt, because Ambrose has become very stale. And I think for a Corbin, a fresh young NXT guy again, to be the champion probably would have been the best way forward. Plus, he's a very strong upper mid-card heel, which could really help Raw out, especially with Chris Jericho leaving pretty soon as well. So yeah, I think Baron Corbin to Raw is definitely one that could have some potential. Next, of course, is going to be what I would consider the trade to Baron Corbin, and that is going to be Sami Zayn. Now, Sami Zayn is someone who, it's always been rumoured that he wanted that move to SmackDown, and he sort of got swallowed up and lost in the upper mid-card on Raw. There's just so many people there, it's difficult to give everyone the opportunity they need, and I think Sami Zayn moving to SmackDown would really allow him the chance to go for the Intercontinental Championship, maybe even get himself in the main event picture and go for the World Heavyweight Championship on SmackDown Live. But it would give him a chance to really show what he can do without just having everyone there, just overcrowding. That's the problem that Raw currently has. Plus, if Sami Zayn did move to SmackDown Live, we would have a serious chance at seeing Sami Zayn versus Shinsuke Nakamura too. And that is a match that I would love to see. Right, next is going to be The Miz moving from SmackDown Live to Raw. Now, I think this one is a little bit more likely for me, because if it is going to be the decision of Daniel Bryan and Shane McMahon to make the trades, then I would assume that somebody who has a bad relationship with Daniel Bryan, like The Miz, has a very good chance of being traded, and I think it would make sense. I think he's a very strong, again, upper mid card heel, but potentially main event as well. I don't think he'd be main event at the moment, because I don't think it would make any sense for him to go after Brock Lesnar, because that would be just a demolition job. But I think he's definitely someone who could pull off some top feuds over on Raw, and yeah, I think it's likely, just because of the relationship with Daniel Bryan, that trade could go ahead. Next one. So the problem I've got at the moment is I seem to have more people down from leaving SmackDown and going to Raw than I do from going to Raw to SmackDown. But the next one I've got on my list is, again, one that's pretty heavily rumoured, but what I would consider a very good one, and that would be The New Day. Now, The New Day, of course, the longest reigning tag team champions in WWE history, become quite stale over on Raw now. I think they've done everything. They've feuded with everyone they possibly can over there, and I think a move to SmackDown would definitely freshen things up for The New Day, but also strengthen that SmackDown Live tag team division, which is struggling a little bit. There's not a lot of tag teams that you would consider as genuine contenders for the championships on SmackDown Live, so having The New Day over there I think would definitely be a fantastic one. Plus, you've got the likes of, well, maybe all three members of New Day could potentially go for the upper mid-card championship, of course the IC championship, or even at a stretch you might see one of them go for the main event belt. I can't imagine any of them would ever hold the main event belt, but if we get Elimination Chamber again later on this year, maybe Kofi Kingston in that Elimination Chamber doing some stunts would be a good thing. And the next one I've got on my list would be Dolph Ziggler to Raw. Now, Ziggler has really been struggling on SmackDown Live. Really, he had a great place to start things off. He got himself a championship match at a pay-per-view. He was doing really, really well. Then, since his heel turn, week on week on week, he just seems to be disappearing more and more and more into the background, and to a point where you forget he's actually on SmackDown now. And I think just to freshen things up for him, maybe moving to Raw, and maybe even taking another face turn. I know he's changed so much recently, face heel, face heel, face heel, but I think for him to move on to Raw and potentially take a face turn would be a good thing for him. And again, to go for that United States Championship, maybe Ziggler versus Kevin Owens moving towards SummerSlam would be a pretty good feud. I reckon they could put on a pretty good match between them, and I think it would be good for him, and it'd be good for Raw. I think that'd be a pretty good trade. So next, I have got another tag team. I've got Enzo and Cass moving to SmackDown Live. And like I said earlier on with The New Day, I think the SmackDown Tag Team Championship needs a bit of a bolstering. There's not a lot of strong tag teams on SmackDown, of course, with Simon Gotch recently leaving as well. That loses the Vaudevillains as a tag team. So when you start to look at it, you've got the Usos, you've got American Alpha, you've got the Ascension, and that's it really, I think. If that's not it, then obviously whoever else is left, I'm just completely forgetting about, because they're obviously not good enough. But Rhino and Heath Slater, I think, is just sort of dissolving away as well. So I think two tag teams moving from Raw to SmackDown would definitely be a good idea, because, of course, if you look at Raw's tag team division now, when the Hardy Boys returned at WrestleMania, and, of course, we saw the Revival debut the night after Mania, all of a sudden the Raw tag division is looking incredibly strong, but it's also looking very, very overcrowded as well. So if the New Day and Enzo and Cass both move to SmackDown, that would really strengthen that. Plus, again, you've got Cassidy, who, of course, Vince is a massive fan of, because he's a big sweaty man. That's what Vince likes. So you never know. Again, you've got somebody who could potentially move into the upper mid-card and really go for some gold and really strengthen that mid-card as well. So next, I've got one that I personally think is an obvious one, and I'm pretty sure this one is definitely going to happen. And this one is going to be Kalisto moving from SmackDown to Raw. Kalisto, for some reason, last year when they decided they were going to be doing the cruiserweights, Kalisto was the only cruiserweight who ended up on SmackDown, and I think they thought themselves, you know what, we don't want to pigeonhole Kalisto. We want to try and use him as someone else. And then it made no sense to me, because you could not pigeonhole him on Raw. He could have gone for the United States Championship. He could have feuded with people, but he would also be available for 205 Live. And I think as time's gone on over the last year, they really have started to build 205 Live up. And I think with Neville being in there as well, I think Kalisto would be a fantastic addition. And I personally think this one will definitely happen. Kalisto to Raw, and of course joining 205 Live as well. Now I've got two more for you. The first one is going to be Sasha Banks moving from Raw to SmackDown Live. Now, a lot of people believe it will be Charlotte moving from Raw to SmackDown, but I think it's going to be Sasha. I think if you look at it, Charlotte last week on Raw almost started a feud with Nia Jax when Nia attacked her after the match. I think we're going to see a Charlotte face turn and a feud against Nia Jax. And I think that Sasha would be a perfect person to move across to SmackDown. SmackDown's doing really well in the women's division. They really are. But I think Sasha might add that little bit of extra star power, because at the moment SmackDown have got a very good set of ladies. They're doing really well. They're being booked really well. But they lack that big star name. And I think Sasha Banks could definitely do that. And of course, she's a very strong face, but she can also be a very strong heel, as we saw in NXT over the years as well. And the one that I put forward as the potential trade for Sasha Banks would be Mickie James. Now, Mickie James moving from SmackDown to Raw would be a clever move for me, because, again, if you look at Raw over the last year have concentrated on 4 women only. And that is Bayley, Charlotte, Sasha, and Nia. Those are the only ones that seem to have had any real look-in of anything over the last year. And if you look at those 4 ladies, they've all got something in common, and that's that they've all come from NXT in the last 18 months to 2 years. So I think with Mickie James moving from SmackDown to Raw, she would add a definite amount of experience to help these younger ladies, not only in the ring, but also backstage as well. She's been around the block, as in to speak. We've all seen the videos. She's been around the block. She's wrestled in different companies all around the world. And I think she would be able to, just to give them that little bit more of a mental edge. And I think that would be a great thing for her, and for the Raw Women's Division as well. I'm not necessarily... There is another one I've thought of other than Mickie James, and that would be Natalya, but it's 6 and 2 for each to me. I think either of those 2 ladies moving to Raw would be a great move for the Raw Women's Division, and of course, whichever one of the 2 move across. Just the experience would really help them out. So those are the ones that I thought of. Of course, if you guys have any other ones that you thought of, then please do drop them in the comments section below. Of course, we can have a conversation down there. I'm going to be away for a few days, but hopefully I'll still be able to reply to all your comments. Of course, if you have enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe and all that good stuff. And I will see you again in a couple of days' time, when what I will do is I will do a reaction to the actual shake-up, and we can match up how many we got right. I've been Shabby Gamer. Thank you very much for watching, and I shall see you all very, very soon for some more Shabby Talk. Bye.